Is it a soundstage? Is this real?
Are you kidding? That's the real thing.
That's the real deal?
Yes, and we were out there for ages.
Everyone knows The Sound of Music as a polished, timeless classic, but what if there were hidden mistakes sitting right in front of your eyes, unnoticed for decades? One scene in particular, left unedited, has a tiny slip so subtle that most viewers never spot it. But once you do, it becomes unforgettable. That small moment is only the beginning. From awkward cuts that interrupt the natural flow of the story to odd details that simply don't belong, there are layers of bloopers and behind-the-scenes mishaps that slipped past the editors and made it into the final cut. You might have seen Julie Andrews twirling joyfully across sunlit meadows, the Von Trapp children leaping with carefree abandon, and the sweeping mountains providing a picture-perfect backdrop. On screen, everything looks effortless, magical, and seamless. But the truth behind the camera was far from serene. Helicopters thundering overhead, rain-soaking sets, actors risking injuries, and sets being rebuilt mid-filming were just a few of the hidden challenges. These are the stories of grit, improvisation, and occasional chaos that transformed a simple musical into a cinematic phenomenon. Over the course of the production, the crew, cast, and director were pushed to their limits, balancing creativity with safety, precision with spontaneity. And there's more. Some of the mistakes weren't technical at all but human. A slip of a dancer, an actor's improvised note, or a misstep that would later become part of the film's charm. Over the next few minutes, we'll uncover 13 of the most surprising bloopers and hidden stories that you've likely never noticed. Some are funny, some shocking, and some simply remarkable in how they shaped the final masterpiece. Are you ready to take a closer look? One of the most iconic images in cinematic history is Julie Andrews spinning atop a sun-drenched meadow, arms outstretched, singing the film's title number, The Sound of Music. The scene looks effortless, radiating warmth, freedom, and joy, but the reality behind it was far more complicated. Capturing the perfect shot was an ordeal, a combination of technical challenges, physical strain, and local frustration. The crew relied on a helicopter-mounted camera, a cutting-edge technique in the mid-1960s. The camera operator was strapped into the aircraft, flying directly toward Andrews as she twirled in the open field. The rotor blades churned the air with deafening power. Andrews naturally couldn't hear her musical cues over the roar of the helicopter, which threatened to throw off her timing with every spin. To solve the problem, choreographer Mark Bro crouched in the bushes, megaphone in hand, yelling instructions over the deafening noise. Every take was a delicate balance between chaos and precision, and then there was the wind. The helicopter's downdraft was so strong that Andrews was often knocked off balance, sent flailing into the grass. She later joked that she was spitting dirt and hay with every attempt. The team shot 6 or 7 takes before capturing one usable frame. Each attempt required Andrews to fight against the very forces of nature, performing seemingly weightless spins while contending with literal gusts that tried to throw her to the ground. Even the environment wasn't cooperative. The picturesque meadow had initially belonged to a local farmer who agreed to keep the tall grasses standing for filming. But by the time the crew returned, the grass had already been mowed. The filmmakers had to improvise quickly, creating artificial patches of greenery and a fabricated stream. Trees were moved, bushes replanted, and every element meticulously adjusted to maintain the illusion of a natural, idyllic meadow. The farmer understandably grew frustrated as helicopters, crew, and noise disrupted his cattle and daily life. Yet, through these challenges, the magic remained. This scene, painstakingly constructed, became the photograph that would define the film itself. The combination of natural beauty, human effort, and technological innovation gave audiences a moment that seemed spontaneous, but was, in reality, the result of immense labor. It's a perfect example of how even the simplest-looking scene in cinema can require incredible ingenuity, patience, and perseverance. While The Sound of Music is remembered for its polished charm, filming was not without mishaps. Some of the most memorable sequences came at a real physical cost to the actors, while others were reshaped in the editing room to improve pacing and storytelling. Together, these elements shaped the film in ways audiences might never suspect. One of the most serious accidents involved Charmian Carr, who played Liesl. During the 16 going on 17 number, Carr danced with Daniel Trujita inside a glass-walled gazebo. Near the end of filming, she slipped on the slick floor, lost her balance, and crashed through a pane of plate glass. The injury to her ankle was severe enough to require immediate attention. Rather than delaying the shoot, the crew quickly bandaged her ankle, applied makeup to disguise the injury, and adjusted choreography to allow the scene to be completed seamlessly. Filming in Salzburg presented another obstacle. The genuine gazebo was too small for the cameras, so the production team built a larger replica on the Fox lot in Los Angeles. This decision allowed for more fluid camera work and easier blocking. But it also added extra logistical work for the crew, who had to recreate the charm of the original location. Julie Andrews left her own subtle mark on the musical score. At the end of Do Re Mi, she added a note an octave higher than written. She later explained it was simply because she could hit it. That improvisation became an iconic flourish of the song, immortalizing her vocal range and creativity. Sadly, a botched throat procedure in 1997 would later rob Andrews of her upper register, making this moment even more remarkable in retrospect. Editing also played a crucial role in shaping the film's tempo and narrative flow. Scenes such as Liesl introducing Rolf to Maria or the captain's solo rendition of Edelweiss in the Garden were cut to maintain pacing. Director Robert Wise described these edits as decluttering the story, creating sharper transitions and a more vibrant rhythm. Injuries, improvisation, and careful editing combined to create the polished, effortless experience that audiences know today. The seamless magic of The Sound of Music belies the hard work, quick thinking, and resilience required behind the scenes. When The Sound of Music premiered in 1965, few anticipated its unprecedented success. Critics offered mixed reviews. Some considered the film old-fashioned, especially as Hollywood increasingly leaned toward grittier realism, but audiences responded with overwhelming enthusiasm. Within 4 weeks, the movie soared to #1 at the box office, where it refused to budge. By late 1966, it had surpassed Gone with the Wind as the all-time highest-grossing film, a record it held for 5 years. In total, more than 283 million tickets were sold worldwide. Combined with its original run and 2 major re-releases, the film generated roughly $286 million, a staggering figure for a musical at the time. It broke attendance and revenue records in 29 countries, with some cities screening the film for as long as 4.5 years. What fueled this phenomenal success wasn't only the postcard-perfect scenery or catchy tunes, it was the emotional clarity of the story. Romance, family, and moral courage were presented in a way audiences could immediately understand and connect with. Julie Andrews' radiant presence and crystal-clear vocals anchored every scene, making her character both relatable and inspiring. Families returned repeatedly, drawn not only to the music but to the experiences depicted on screen. The film showed children learning, exploring, and embracing love while highlighting the triumph of resilience over authoritarian constraints. Publicity and word of mouth helped transform ordinary viewings into shared cultural events, where audiences would sing along softly and later bring friends to experience the magic firsthand. The Sound of Music succeeded in both theaters and living rooms, its melodies saturating airwaves and its imagery attracting tourists to Salzburg. From Andrews spinning on hillsides to the family's final mountain escape, the film's visuals became symbols of joy, resilience, and freedom. Beyond box office numbers, its enduring popularity proved that a project initially doubted by insiders could evolve into a global phenomenon. Casting Maria von Trapp was one of the most pivotal decisions in the making of The Sound of Music. The filmmakers needed an actress who could embody warmth, charm, humor, and sincerity simultaneously. For writer Ernest Lehman, the choice was clear: Julie Andrews. He was so convinced that he reportedly said, "As far as I'm concerned, there's only one person to play this role." Yet in 1964, Andrews was not yet the household name she would soon become. She had just completed Mary Poppins and the Americanization of Emily, neither of which had been released, and she was still primarily known for her stage performances in My Fair Lady and Camelot. Hollywood executives, however, were far less sure. Warner Brothers had famously passed her over for the film adaptation of My Fair Lady, claiming she wasn't photogenic enough for the screen. The studio explored other potential stars: Doris Day, Grace Kelly, Shirley Jones, Angie Dickinson, Anne Bancroft, Carol Lawrence, and Leslie Caron. Mia Farrow even auditioned multiple times for the role of one of the Von Trapp children. Any of these actors could have changed the entire legacy of the film. Director Robert Wise, however, held a secret advantage. He had seen early footage of Andrews in Mary Poppins before its release and immediately recognized her as a star. Wise moved quickly to secure her for the role before other studios could make a competing offer. Andrews signed a contract for $225,000, a respectable sum for the time, but without any profit participation. Considering that she would soon command $1 million per film, this contract now seems almost astonishingly modest. Andrews, always thoughtful about her craft, had one immediate concern. The story could easily tip into excessive sentimentality. She asked Wise, "How are you going to get all the sugar out of this picture?" Her insistence on maintaining a realistic balance between charm and sentiment was critical. That gut instinct, coupled with her natural warmth, kept the film sincere rather than overly sweet, and helped Maria resonate deeply with audiences. Ultimately, the gamble paid off. Andrews' casting was a bold risk, transforming a relatively unknown talent into a legend and creating a performance that would endure for generations. Her ability to balance innocence, humor, and emotional depth gave the film its heart, turning The Sound of Music from a standard musical into a timeless classic. While Julie Andrews was swiftly confirmed as Maria, finding the right actor for Captain Georg von Trapp proved far more complicated. Christopher Plummer, the actor who would eventually embody the stern, yet secretly tender naval officer, initially resisted the role. At first glance, he felt the character was too rigid, almost a cardboard cutout of an authoritarian father. Plummer was unwilling to play a flat, lifeless stereotype. The studio considered several big-name stars: Sean Connery, Richard Burton, Bing Crosby, and Yul Brynner. Each brought fame and gravitas, but none seemed able to capture the delicate balance of authority and vulnerability required. Plummer, though hesitant, remained the top choice, yet he refused to sign until certain creative changes were made. Plummer personally wrote to screenwriter Ernest Lehman, outlining his concerns. He wanted Von Trapp to have layers, a man who was firm and disciplined, but also worldly, charming, and capable of humor. He suggested that the character's gradual softening should occur naturally through his interactions with Maria. Additionally, Plummer requested specific scene adjustments: stern interactions with Elsa, tender moments with Maria, and other subtleties that would give the captain emotional depth. Some of his ideas made it into the final film. Lehman and director Robert Wise restructured scenes to reflect these nuances, giving Plummer a more dynamic, three-dimensional character to portray. Plummer even advocated for a solo musical moment, a way to express the captain's inner conflict through song. Though not all of these suggestions survived the editing room, the collaboration profoundly shaped the final character. By addressing Plummer's hesitations, the filmmakers transformed a potentially flat figure into a commanding yet relatable presence. His portrayal is both authoritative and vulnerable, a man capable of stern discipline, quiet humor, and profound tenderness. This complexity became a defining feature of the film, proving that careful collaboration and thoughtful actor input could elevate the material far beyond its original script. In retrospect, Plummer's initial reluctance was a blessing in disguise. His insistence on depth and subtlety helped craft a Captain Von Trapp who remains one of cinema's most memorable father figures. Without his input, the character might have been simply functional. With it, he became iconic. Despite the idyllic appearance on screen, filming The Sound of Music in Salzburg and Bavaria was anything but smooth. Nature itself became one of the greatest challenges for the production. The film is filled with sunlit meadows, lush gardens, and pristine mountain vistas. But those images were often the result of carefully timed breaks between relentless downpours. Christopher Plummer, in particular, found the weather frustrating. Already uneasy about the partial dubbing of his singing voice, he faced additional stress from unpredictable rain and soggy sets. Simple scenes, such as Liesl sneaking into Maria's bedroom after meeting Rolf, required upwards of 15 takes to achieve continuity, lighting, and performance perfection. To simulate rain effects, the crew used a device called Mr. Rainstorm, which sprayed cold water over Charmian Carr to keep her drenched between cuts. She shivered for hours, but her performance remained convincing. Transporting equipment across muddy, uneven mountain roads proved another logistical headache. Cameras, crew, and even Julie Andrews herself had to be moved using ox carts, bouncing precariously over hills and slopes. Wise recalled seeing Andrews bundled in a fur coat, waiting patiently in one of these carts to film the iconic opening shot. Each delay meant longer hours, higher costs, and mounting tension among the cast and crew. Rain also affected morale during key scenes. The children's early number, jumping on Maria's bed and singing My Favorite Things, had to be postponed repeatedly. Every setback created exhaustion and occasional frustration, yet the team persevered, balancing creativity with endurance. Even the smallest outdoor scene demanded meticulous planning to ensure continuity, lighting, and musical timing, often under grueling conditions. These challenges, however, contributed to the film's polished magic. The relentless planning, problem-solving, and patience infused every frame with a sense of authenticity. While audiences see sunshine, green hills, and joyful performances, the behind-the-scenes story is one of persistence, ingenuity, and resilience. The natural obstacles forced the team to think creatively and work collaboratively, ultimately enhancing the realism and emotional impact of the film. The Sound of Music owes much of its enduring charm to these very struggles. Every shot of the mountains, every meadow dance, and every emotional interaction between characters was forged through adversity, perseverance, and sheer determination. The Von Trapp children appear on screen as perfectly coordinated, charming, and energetic, but the reality of filming with young actors was far from simple. The production involved 7 children, each with unique personalities and skill levels. Training them to sing, act, and move in sync required patience, creativity, and, occasionally, quick improvisation. Director Robert Wise and choreographers faced a significant challenge. The children had never performed together as a cohesive unit. Each had to memorize lines, match musical timing, and execute choreography precisely, often in demanding outdoor locations with unpredictable weather. Charmian Carr recalled that even seemingly simple scenes, such as group singing or dancing, on the gazebo stairs required repeated takes because the children's timing and spacing were inconsistent. Filming schedules were designed around their energy levels. The team often used playful incentives, games, and even bribery with treats to encourage focus. Despite the hurdles, the children's performances exuded spontaneity and joy, masking the countless hours of rehearsal behind each scene. The combination of professional guidance and the children's natural charm created a magical on-screen family that felt authentic and loving. Every costume in The Sound of Music was carefully chosen to enhance the story, highlight character development, and reflect the period. Yet creating these iconic looks was far from easy. The wardrobe team faced numerous hurdles: outdoor shoots, sudden weather changes, and the need for multiple identical outfits for continuity. Julie Andrews' dresses, particularly her iconic dirndls, were made with lightweight fabrics that could withstand dozens of takes. However, filming in wind, rain, and mud caused constant damage, requiring frequent repairs or replacements. The Von Trapp children needed dozens of outfits to maintain visual continuity across multiple scenes and locations, creating a logistical nightmare for the costume department. One particularly memorable wardrobe challenge involved Liesel's white dress during 16 going on 17. The outdoor gazebo shoot was slippery and wet, forcing careful adjustments to prevent wardrobe malfunctions while maintaining movement and grace. Similarly, Maria's spinning dress in the opening meadow had to be reinforced to withstand repeated helicopter downdrafts without tearing, while still appearing light and flowing on camera. Costumes were more than visual aesthetics. They enhanced character expression. Each design choice subtly reflected personality, class, and mood. And even minor wardrobe details became part of the storytelling. This attention to detail contributed to the film's authenticity, transforming clothing into a vital part of the cinematic experience. The musical sequences in The Sound of Music are legendary, but capturing them was an intricate process involving careful coordination between live performance and pre-recorded tracks. Julie Andrews recorded most of her songs in advance, but on set, the actors had to lip-sync perfectly to the playback. This required meticulous timing and attention to detail, especially for outdoor or action-heavy scenes. In some cases, environmental factors interfered. Wind, rain, and helicopter noise made it difficult to hear the music cues, forcing the cast and crew to rely on visual signals and in-ear monitors. Andrews, who had impeccable pitch and rhythm, often improvised slightly to compensate for these disruptions, creating subtle flourishes that were not part of the original score. These small improvisations later became defining moments of the musical sequences. The children singing posed additional challenges. Balancing their voices with Andrews and ensuring clarity in each line required multiple takes and careful audio mixing. Playback tracks had to be perfectly synchronized with their live movements, meaning even a slight misstep could require reshooting an entire scene. Despite these hurdles, the result on screen is seamless. The songs feel natural, effortless, and emotionally resonant, masking the complex technical effort and precision behind each musical number. These sequences are a testament to the skill, patience, and artistry of everyone involved in bringing the soundtrack to life. While Salzburg and the Austrian Alps provided a breathtaking backdrop for The Sound of Music, not every scene could be filmed on location. The production team faced the challenge of recreating authentic Austrian landscapes and interiors on studio sets in Los Angeles, ensuring continuity between real and fabricated environments. Outdoor locations were often complemented by detailed set pieces built on the Fox lot. For instance, the famous gazebo where Liesel and Rolf performed 16 going on 17 had to be constructed larger than the original to accommodate cameras and crew while preserving its charming aesthetics. Each plank, railing, and window pane was meticulously replicated, giving viewers the illusion of being transported directly into Salzburg. Indoor sets required equal attention. The Von Trapp family home, designed for comfort and elegance, had to reflect the period accurately while allowing for dynamic camera movement. Walls were reinforced for camera tracks, furniture was repositionable for choreography, and props were carefully chosen to reflect the Von Trapp's wealth and personality. Even minor details like the placement of a chair or the texture of a rug were scrutinized to ensure authenticity. Lighting posed another challenge. Natural sunlight could not be controlled in outdoor locations, so the crew built artificial sources that mimicked the same warmth and brightness indoors. They had to match the color and intensity of natural light to maintain seamless visual continuity between exterior and interior shots. Through a combination of on-location filming, detailed sets, and meticulous lighting, the production team created an immersive world that felt organic and lived in. Audiences see only a magical unified Austria, but behind the scenes, each scene was a carefully orchestrated balance of artistry, engineering, and sheer creative problem-solving. Director Robert Wise faced immense pressure to transform The Sound of Music into a cohesive, emotionally engaging film. Known for his meticulous attention to detail, Wise approached every aspect of production with precision, from camera angles to actor blocking, choreography, and pacing. Yet even a director of his experience encountered unexpected hurdles. One of Wise's primary challenges was balancing the film's visual grandeur with intimate character moments. The sweeping landscapes could easily overshadow the human story, so he used close-ups, over-the-shoulder shots, and dynamic framing to ensure the audience felt the emotional core of each scene. He also worked closely with cinematographer Ted McCord to integrate natural landscapes seamlessly with studio sets, maintaining continuity and realism. Wise's insistence on perfection extended to choreography. He coordinated closely with Mark and Marge Bro to ensure that every dance step, spin, and leap complemented the music and enhanced character expression. During the opening meadow scene, Wise patiently oversaw multiple helicopter takes, despite wind, weather, and logistical difficulties, determined to capture a shot that would define the film. He also had to navigate the actors' concerns and creative input. Christopher Plummer's initial resistance, Julie Andrews' insistence on balancing sentimentality, and the children's unpredictable performances all required diplomacy, flexibility, and quick decision-making. Wise managed these challenges with patience and a firm sense of vision, ensuring that each actor felt heard while preserving the integrity of the story. Perhaps most importantly, Wise maintained a balance between realism and cinematic fantasy. Every obstacle, be it weather delays, difficult terrain, or actor injuries, was addressed with inventive solutions, from ox carts and artificial streams to rewrites and carefully timed shooting schedules. Through these challenges, Wise's vision prevailed, a film that feels effortless, magical, and emotionally resonant despite the complexities of its creation. Even in a meticulously crafted film like The Sound of Music, mistakes and unintentional details found their way into the final cut. Many are subtle, so casual viewers may never notice them, but once spotted, they change the way you watch the movie. One of the most famous examples occurs during the children's outdoor scenes. In certain shots, shadows cast by crew members are faintly visible on the meadow, quickly removed or masked in subsequent takes, but not entirely erased. In others, props like stray rocks or uneven grass appear inconsistently between cuts, revealing the challenges of filming in natural landscapes. Costume inconsistencies also sneak through. A child may be wearing a slightly different shade of lederhosen between cuts, or a strap may shift slightly on Maria's dress during spins. These small details are nearly invisible, but illustrate the human effort behind maintaining continuity across dozens of takes. Even performances contain tiny bloopers. In one scene, an actor's glance or reaction may seem slightly off, likely a last-minute adjustment to accommodate the camera or choreography, but it remains in the final cut because reshooting would have delayed the tight schedule. Similarly, props occasionally move between takes. A musical instrument, a vase, or a piece of furniture might appear in a slightly different location within the same scene. These hidden errors don't detract from the film. They add texture and authenticity. They remind viewers that even the most polished classics are the result of intense labor, improvisation, and problem-solving. Once noticed, they offer a new layer of appreciation, a glimpse into the human effort, patience, and ingenuity required to create cinematic magic. The Sound of Music remains timeless not despite these imperfections, but because of the dedication and creativity that transform challenges into unforgettable art. The subtle mistakes, behind-the-scenes stories, and painstaking effort all contribute to the film's enduring charm. While The Sound of Music is often remembered for its precise choreography and musical numbers, some of the film's most memorable moments arose from spontaneous improvisation. Julie Andrews, Christopher Plummer, and even the child actors occasionally added subtle flourishes that were not in the script, elevating scenes and giving them a natural charm. One famous example is during Do Re Mi. Julie Andrews added a high-pitched note at the end of a line, an impromptu decision that became iconic and emblematic of her vocal brilliance. This was not written in the sheet music, but her effortless delivery made it feel like a natural part of the song. Similarly, the children often improvised small gestures, glances, or playful antics between takes. These minor adjustments added realism and spontaneity to the musical sequences, making the on-screen family dynamic feel authentic. Christopher Plummer also contributed creatively. He adjusted gestures and expressions to reflect the inner conflict of Captain Von Trapp, ensuring his character's transformation from authoritarian to loving father was nuanced. Sometimes these improvisations occurred because actors were compensating for technical constraints, unpredictable weather, awkward camera angles, or difficult choreography. Yet these spontaneous choices often improved the final performance, adding layers of emotional depth and believability. These moments demonstrate that even in a highly orchestrated production, human creativity and quick thinking play a pivotal role. The small improvised touches, unplanned facial expressions, slight changes in timing, or vocal embellishments became part of the magic, leaving lasting impressions on audiences worldwide. Filming in Salzburg brought the story to life in its authentic Austrian setting, but it also created unexpected interactions with local residents. While many locals were fascinated by the Hollywood crew and the glamorous production, others grew frustrated by the disruptions. Helicopters, lighting rigs, and massive equipment blocked streets, disrupted daily routines and occasionally frightened animals. Farmers, particularly those near the meadow scenes, were irritated by the repeated trampling of fields and noise from rotors. Yet despite the inconveniences, locals were often captivated by the scale of the production, and some even became impromptu extras, appearing in crowd scenes or helping with set preparation. The crew made efforts to respect the community, but compromises were inevitable. Shots were frequently delayed because the area had to be cleared, props had to be moved, or animals had to be corralled safely. Children, visitors, and curious residents occasionally wandered into frames, requiring reshoots. Ultimately, these interactions added a layer of authenticity to the film. The Austrian backdrop wasn't just a passive landscape, it was a living, breathing environment that demanded negotiation, patience, and adaptation from the filmmakers. These real-world challenges contributed to the film's vivid, immersive quality, making the on-screen Salzburg feel alive and fully inhabited. During production, several scenes were shot but ultimately left on the cutting room floor. These deletions were not due to lack of quality. They were carefully considered choices to streamline pacing and maintain narrative focus. For example, the scene in which Liesl formally introduces Rolf to Maria was filmed but removed. While it provided context, it slowed the tempo of the story. Another deleted moment was Captain Von Trapp's solo rendition of Edelweiss in the garden. Though the performance was beautiful, it was cut to preserve the film's flow and emotional impact. Other alternate takes included variations of musical sequences with slightly different choreography or dialogue.